Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I drop the kids off at school and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, greetings listeners. It is Friday morning, September 7th, and it is rainy. You're going to hear lots of interesting background noises as I'm walking today. You've got umbrella sounds and extra tire noise because it's rainy. And so we'll see. Hopefully I get to use this episode and I don't have to throw it away. But I like to make sure that things aren't too crazy sound-wise for you. Even though the shtick of this is that I'm walking around on suburban streets while I'm recording. Well, I hope that you are having a lovely day today and that it's not raining too much where you are. We had a block party last week and got our fire pit out to do s'mores at the block party. And this may be a week and a half ago now. And I haven't yet had a couple dry days in a row to let the fire pit dry out. We've just had rainy day, rainy day, sunny, rainy, and so the fire pit's just staying wet. I'm actually thinking about moving into the garage so it can dry out before I put the nylon cover back on. This has been Brendan's Fire Pit Update. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about some developments I've seen in Kickstarter in the last month or so. I'm consistently watching Kickstarter, as you'd expect of a boutique publisher who expects to publish their games through this platform. And I've seen a number of interesting developments that I wanted to call out here. The three developments I've noticed have all been pretty interesting when it comes to the nature of the games being published and the ways that publishers are using the Kickstarter platform to try to appeal to people without doing too much in the way of crazy stretch goals. Though inevitably, stretch goals are part of the process. So the first one I want to mention is, I'm going to start with my downer and then go for two uppers. That's more fun, I think. So the first one is the current Kickstarter for the Dale of Merchants collection. Dale of Merchants is a really interesting little deck builder that has a unique premise or a unique system that I haven't really seen in other places. So the idea is you're doing a deck building, you're kind of standard buying cards out of a market. It's a river market, so you don't always have the same cards available. And you're buying cards by generating points to buy cards with. The goal of the game is to build 5 merchant stalls. And this is the part where the game becomes really interesting. When you want to build a merchant stall, you take a card, and it has to be a card that looks just like another card. So like two of the same. And you put it down on your tableau. And I believe the first merchant stall you build just takes 1 card. The second merchant stall takes 2, the third one 3, and so on. Well, when you put a card down in your merchant stall, you now have that card in your stall. It's like your victory tableau, but it doesn't do anything for you in the game anymore. So the cards you buy contribute toward your victory when you put them down. But once you put them down, you can't use them anymore. However, this means that you can keep a really tight deck building engine going because the cards that you don't want anymore, you can dump into these stalls as long as you have enough of them to make the stall. At the same time, if you wait until you only have expensive cards in your deck to work toward that 5th stall, then you have to put 5 cards down to get it, as I recall. It's been a while since I played. But it's really interesting. However, so that's the game itself. They've done 2 editions of it, Dale of Merchants and Dale of Merchants 2. And now the creator, Sammy Lasco is his name, has a 3rd Kickstarter coming out called the Dale of Merchants Collection. And each of the first 2 had, I think, 4 or 5 decks of cards that you could use. And in any given game, you're going to use, I think, 5 of them. Or 4. No, maybe there were 8 per game. I don't remember. You're not always using all the decks. You use a couple of the decks each game. And so there's a lot of variety in there as you mix and match the combinations, because each deck does something different. Oh, also there's sort of animal themes. So one deck is like parrots and one deck is raccoons and that sort of thing. So the first two collections have basically different sets of cards you can use in the game. This third collection has different sets of cards. It's got a couple other little bonus things, and it's got a jumbo box that holds the whole shebang. Now, I'm not really sure why, but every time that a new set of Dale of Merchants comes out, I am at a place where I don't have the money to spare to spend on that game. Like, I'm interested in it, but the amount he's charging or whatever precludes me from ordering it. So I have, for both Dale of Merchants and Dale of Merchants 2, backed at the $5 print and play level. And then when I've got a little extra time, I print the game on cardstock, I cut it out and sleeve it, and then I have the game. I've done that for the first two. So I would really like to do that for the third one, because then I would be able to complete my collection in the same form as the other ones. Right? I mean, I don't, for one thing, even in my current state, I don't really want to spend, I think it's $35 or $40 to get the remaining set printed. But I also don't have commercial copies of the first two, which means that if I wanted to be able to play the whole thing together, I need to either get print and play and do it the way I've done it, or get the whole shebang, which is like $90. And I'm definitely not doing the $90 one. I like the game, but I don't like it that much. So I'd like to do the print and play. But for some reason, even though he had print and play available as an option in the first two, he does not have it as an option in this one, which I have to say is pretty disappointing. As somebody who does occasionally do that, I wish that I could complete the collection following in the pattern that he's set. So I would say a bit of a gem of advice for Kickstarter creators is, if you're think about the ways that your audience engages with your product and offer that consistently. If you offer the product in one way, continue to offer it that one way. Or another way to phrase it would be, support your previous backers. A good example of this would be Mind Clash. In their recent Tricarion expansion, one of the things they offered was an upgrade pack, so that if you had the original Tricarion, you could get the expansion, but you could also get this cool box that holds everything for the game so far. So it holds the original game, plus both expansions that have come out already. Or plus the expansion that came out already, plus the new expansion would all fit into this new box. Which is really nice for those of us who had the original game and don't want to have two boxes. So that's excellent. Fortunately for me, they announced that just before I was going to build a foam core insert for it, so I'm really glad I didn't have to do that and then throw it away as I build a new one to support the bigger box or whatever. So that's a lesson from Dale of Merchants game collection. We'll see. They've got a couple weeks left on that campaign. I did email him or sent him a message asking for the PNP level. We'll see if other people do the same. I backed at $1 so I could follow it. If it comes up, I may, if I don't hear anything in another week or so, I may post a note in the comments just saying I wish there were a PNP version. Does anybody else share that desire? Just to try to drum up some feedback. Okay, so the other two examples I wanted to give are positive things I noted campaign runners doing that I thought were solid and smart moves that I think elevate the form and increase the likelihood that backers will back. The first comes from Artipia Games. Artipia Games is a mid-level publisher. They've done a number of games with moderate level hits. I think their biggest one was In Pursuit of Happiness, the kind of game of life for adults game that came out a couple years ago. They've made games every now and again, and I follow them because they usually do interesting stuff. Well, they have a game coming out called A Thief's Fortune, and it's got a really interesting sort of time travel mechanism where you can see what's coming, and it looks like a really neat game, and the price point's pretty nice. It's like $35, which is pretty good for an interesting game. So I'm backing. I'm keen to try it, and when it first came out, I backed that one as well. But then somewhere along the line, they canceled it because they weren't getting enough traction on the campaign in their first try. This was maybe 3-4 months ago. And then they relaunched a week ago. But they did something nice. They emailed all of us who had backed the previous one, and they said, hey, we've got the new campaign starting up soon. We hope you'll back it as a thank you for your support in the original campaign and to entice you over to the new one. Aside from the changes we made to make the campaign better itself, we've got an add-on where you get these little player boards that hold your components. It's just like a bag that represents the thief's bag. So you put your stuff you get into this little cardboard picture of a bag. But it's an extra component that's not going to be in the game. It's a promo. Everybody who backed the original campaign or has backed a previous Artipia Games campaign who backs this one gets that for free. Everybody else has to pay, I think, $5 for that promo. I think that's a nice touch. It's available at a reasonable price for people who really want to be completionist and get everything. But it nods to the people who have helped the community out before by providing a new thing, an extra thing that you get for free as a thank you. I really like that. I thought it was a clever move and an interesting choice. So I'm really pleased to have backed there. I think the fulfillment is going to be a pain in the butt because they're going to have to check every backer to see if they get that reward. So it seems like that is going to be kind of a pain. But I suppose with computer sorting algorithms, that's easy enough to do. So that's Thief's Fortune from Artipia Games. Finally, I wanted to comment a little bit on the clever things being done on Nanty Narking, something like that. A new game from Felix Games that's on Kickstarter right now. It is from game designer you're going to be surprised about, Martin Wallace. That's right, Martin Wallace has a new game coming out from Phalanx Games called Nanty Narking. And if you read about it, it's actually just Ankh-Morpork revisited. So Ankh-Morpork was one of the Tree Frog games that Martin Wallace did using the license for Terry Pratchett's Discworld. However, that license was no longer his, and Ankh-Morpork is really hard to get and well received when it came out. So he's redoing that game with a new theme, which is London in the 19th century, and it's full of characters from fiction at that time. Like Sherlock Holmes is in it, and Fagin from Oliver Twist are two of the ones that I spotted. So, sort of an insta-back for me. Ooh, Martin Wallace game, refiguring about Ankh-Morpork, a game I don't have. Boom, I'm there. But what's been interesting as I've watched it evolve is they're doing this thing. Whoever the creative writer for the game is has written a branching story taking place in the world of the game in which a character is trying to find out. There's this woman he loved, Lenore. Gee, I wonder who that is. Who was killed in the East End, and he's trying to figure out who killed her. So each day on the campaign, they're posting another story section, and at the end of the story section, the narrator gives a choice of where he might go, one place or another. And as a backer, you can vote where you think he should go. And then at the end of the day, they tally up the votes, and whichever side gets the most votes, that's what he does. And generally, there's another game element revealed. Now, they say revealed rather than added. I think the whole game is planned already. I don't think that I don't think these are stretch goals we're meeting by doing this. I think instead what we're doing is we're just getting sneak peeks. As a group, we're deciding what sneak peeks we want of what's going on in the game. So we're getting to see miniatures and we're getting to see cards. It's a pretty nice little mechanism to keep people involved. I know it's pretty rare that I will follow a campaign once I've backed it. Once I back it, that's it, I'm fine. I don't need to go back and look at it again. This one I've been reading each of the updates each morning and voting, so I'm pretty excited about that as a technique to keep people involved in an age when Kickstarter audiences tend to be a bit more cynical than they used to be. Thanks for listening. Those are 3 trends I've seen on Kickstarter lately, or 3 things I saw that I thought were interesting and unusual and informative for those of us who are looking to use Kickstarter as a fundraising platform at some point. I hope you found this an interesting conversation. What have you seen campaigns do that you thought was interesting or provocative? Hop over to Boardgame Guild 3269 and let us know in the comments there. You can find me there, wombat929, or you can email me, brendan@rattleboxgames.com. You can find show notes for this show at rattleboxgames.com and reach me at Twitter at rattleboxgames. Well, I hope that your next walk is not nearly as rainy as mine was. But thanks for joining me anyway. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.